Alright, so today we're going to be trying something a little bit different, and it's the fact that I've got a house that I was renting out to someone and they moved out, and I think it's time for it to actually just go on the market and sell it, and for me to get rid of it. So I thought it would be a fun opportunity to have you come along with me as I prep this house to be sold. It'll be kind of from the homeowner's perspective of what they need to do to get their house ready to put on the market and get the highest value for it as it hits the market, gather all that interest, and so on. So I'm going to explain everything that I'm going to do to get this home ready. So the first thing on the list is going to require me to get all of these tools and some more into my truck out there. So I'm going to hop on that really quick, and then we'll head over to the house. Alright, so if you know me or have been following me for any amount of time, you'll know that I do a lot of construction, not because I have to, but because I really enjoy doing it, and I've done a lot of work to this house that we're going to be going through. Maybe you will bounce, maybe you won't, probably not. So I actually used to live in this house that we're going to be going through, and it's popped up on my channel every so often, but I think this house is going to give a pretty good perspective as far as what it takes to get ready for a sale for a home. Now the house is already empty, it just needs cleaned and some work done to it just to get it completely prepped. So it's going to be a little bit different in that regard, where it's going to be super easy to work on. I'm not going to have to work around any kids or any furniture or anything like that. So that is a whole different process if you are currently living in your home, but this should still give you a pretty good idea as far as what to expect. Alright, so we're starting to get a little bit closer to the house now, and part of the reason why I do actually want to sell it is because it's on a main road that's pretty busy, and I would like to see this house go while the road is the quietest, and they're rebuilding the bridge at the bottom of it. So right now it's basically just a side street that people are using like to park on the street, which is something that I never thought I'd ever see. So that's my main motivation. The other thing is, it has a septic tank, and the tenant didn't do a great job at keeping up with it. I showed up one day to fix something, and I noticed that the alarm was off for the septic tank, and I just realized that I can't really put it in someone else to take care of it, or at least keep an eye on it. Not that everyone wouldn't treat it as their own, but it's just one of those safety things that could go horribly wrong if it's not kept up with, where I could just buy a house that is on public sewer and let someone live in that and not have to worry about anything, just because most of those don't ever back up, whereas there are a ton of things that could go wrong with the septic tank. So that mixed with I have a lot of equity in it, and getting some of my debt paid off and just being in a better place financially is just a better opportunity for me. So that's, I would say, the two main reasons why I'm thinking about selling it. Alright, so rolling up to the house, first things first, I did notice, you can probably see it behind me, tenant just tossed out some garbage and maybe some raccoons got it. That's definitely something that I'm going to have to be addressing here pretty soon. So I don't want my neighbors to think I'm a slob just because of everything that I put into this house. I turned this thing into a really nice looking place. Came pretty dingy when I bought it, but we've also got some pretty massive trees growing right by the septic tank. Also not a very good thing to have. They were probably about to my waist last time I saw them. It's about a year ago. So that is something that's going to need addressed. This retaining wall is not doing too hot. I'm debating if I want to rebuild it or not. It shouldn't be too hard to do, but it's one of those things where it's going to be a game time decision depending on how long all this takes me. This is the only area that I'm having trouble trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. This concrete is beat. Like, it's bad. When I was living here, originally I just wanted to break it all out and turn this all into grass. But I don't know if that's going to happen, just because it's going to be a lot to dispose of this concrete. So I am open to suggestions on that one. But around the corner we've got like this creek behind, and this is all Metro Parks back here. And this is pretty much why I bought the house, because like you're tucked away in the woods. You don't get that anywhere. Now I kind of have it at my house now. but this backyard is kind of unusable. It's a really steep hill. I talk about this a lot in all my other videos, but you can see pretty distinct line going through here, and that is from the gutters dropping down water onto that for a year or so. So I need to figure out what's up with that. Something's clogged. But like from here to here, it's pitched towards the house. So any water that's going right there is getting funneled right into the house, which obviously is not good. So I'm probably gonna have to bring in 5 yards of dirt or something to get that addressed and knock all this down and throw hay down. I need to get all of this wood cleaned up and out of here because that stuff attracts termites. There actually used to be stairs right there next to this piece of wood, and we had a tree cut down right there, so it's not going to be the most appealing backyard, which kind of sucks, but got to deal with the hand that we're dealt. Might try to get a hose in here to try and clean up any like spills and stuff like that. There's a couple on the ground, just to make it look a little nicer. There is one thing that I have to do from when I rewired this panel. Technically, by code, all the wires are supposed to be secured down like that to a board before they go into the panel, and these ones are just kind of hanging. So I'm gonna get a piece of wood back behind it to secure them. The other thing with the wiring in the garage, I need GFI in all of the outlets, but that's a pretty cheap fix. So this room is actually really tall. I think it's got 9-foot ceilings in here, and it's really just this big open room that I was gonna use for an Airbnb when I was living here. So I put a kitchen in on that side, but I never ended up using it. So there's a couple little things that I need to fix. We've got this side piece that really didn't stick for whatever reason, so probably try and super glue that. Same on the other side. I am going to go through, service the hot water tank and service the furnace. Servicing the hot water tank, basically I'm just gonna clean it. As far as servicing this, I already changed the air filter. I always keep extra next to it. And then I'm gonna pull the cover off of it and clean the inside just so that there's no dust or anything, and it just presents really well for when the inspection happens. Have it set so I can do laundry down here as well. So I wanna add another outlet there. That also has to be a GFI. Right now it's running up to a dehumidifier. Inside the house, got a pretty funky smell. Hoping the cleaners will be able to fix that. But this is pretty much how it feels as soon as you walk in. It's a big open area. Got your living room off to the right when you come in with a bay window, looks to the front. You got the fireplace. Got the wood beam up top with a fan, and then just this massive kitchen. Moving down the hallway, we've got bathroom off to the right, and I kind of did this as like a built-in, and it turned out really well. Again, just needs cleaning. This sink drains a little slow, so I'm gonna mess around with that and see if I can figure out what's happening. So realistically, there's not a whole lot that needs to get done. It's gonna be a few days worth of a little bit of hard work with the dirt in the back. That's really gonna be the worst of it, and just keeping up with the exterior. But there's not a whole lot I have to do inside. There is one more thing that I did forget, and up in the attic, I never hooked the bathroom vent to go outside, so I'm gonna have to vent that to the exterior as well. That's one of the most common things that I come across on a home inspection, is that the bathroom fan vent is not vented to the outside, it's just vented into the attic, and you can run into moisture and mold problems when that is the scenario. So you always wanna make sure that gets fixed, and even I fall victim to that stuff, and I've been renovating houses for a while now. I've been selling houses for a while now, and I see it all the time. So, and if you're buying a house too and come across that, you're not the only one either. So I think the first thing that I am going to knock out on my list is going to be using these things. They are a fruit fly trap. No idea how they work, but my cleaner actually recommended them to me. And then the other thing that I'm going to focus on today is getting the tree over by the septic tank down and all of this trash cleaned up, because I don't want my neighbors looking at this stuff. I hate when I see trash all over the place, and I'm sure they do too. So these are pretty fun ones. They're actually Phillips head screws, and they're held in by an anchor behind. So what you do is you pull the screw out, and then when the screw's out, you take the backside of the screwdriver and literally just bang it. So that way when you go to make your drywall patch, there's a pretty big indent and then it just floats over it super smoothly. So here, let me show you exactly what I mean with that. So I'm try doing this one-handed, but pull the screw out, and then I don't know how well this is gonna show over on the camera because I don't have a tripod or anything, but what I'm gonna do is just take it and beat it in. So let's see what happens when me trying to film this. So I hope you can kind of see that there's like a little indent now, and then when I take the knife and float it over, it's gonna fill it in with mud, and hit those ones while we're at it. Once the knife floats over it, it'll just fill in those gaps and be completely smooth, and that way I don't have to do a whole lot of sanding. All right, so the trash is mostly swept up now, and we got it all out of there, and it is all just in bags hanging out in the front right now. I'll probably run it to the dump because I'm like 4 days away from trash day, and I don't want these fruit flies to stick around for much longer. But we got the street cleaned up. Next on the list is getting this stupid tree cut down. All right, so I've got this like massive thing. I don't know if it's gonna work or not, so we are gonna do our best to see what happens. I'm gonna try putting it sideways and just cutting like a normal chainsaw. I left my other chainsaw at my brother's house, so I didn't have access to it this morning. All right, so this is already looking a million times better. Next thing I gotta do is pop in and knock out some of these roots, so hopefully they don't just grow back, because that's what ended up happening. They've been cut down before, and then they just work their way back. So what I'm gonna do is take a shovel, dig it, try and cut back as far as I can on the roots. I think it'll always still kind of grow, but anything that I can do to help the future owner out is gonna pay dividends, more or less. Alright, so I am back for day 2 of work, and while I was on the highway driving here, my tailgate on my truck opened up and I lost a can of paint, and I don't know when that happened, so hopefully someone didn't get smoked by that. I know these trucks have a recall for their tailgates and I haven't taken it in, but I guess this is my sign to do so now, just because I don't really want that to happen again. So after I left yesterday, everything ended up getting soaked because it started pouring rain, and then it poured rain all day, so I wasn't really able to get much done after I went to Home Depot to get everything. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is start tackling these weeds. It just looks so bad, and I want to make the exterior of this house look a little bit nicer. And it's finally sunny outside. We actually just got the septic tank pumped as well, so whoever moves in here is going to be set for the next few years. So let's get day 2 started. I feel like now's a good time to say wear your glasses like I did in that last clip. I forgot mine, so this is more of a do as I say, not as I do moment. When there's anything projectile that is flying towards your eyes, you definitely want to keep those safe. I give it the old squint method, and as you can kind of tell, I'm already squinting already. So yeah, wear glasses. So I'm going to keep picking at this. I need to cut the trees down with a chainsaw. I don't have too much time left for the time that I have available today, so hopefully I can get at least through this top section and be able to hit it with the chainsaw next time I come back. All right, so we're back with day 3 and finished up the backyard while I was not on camera. It's all clear back here. Got some tree stumps every so often. So what I think I'm gonna do for the new homeowner is rebuild this retaining wall. That way they've got almost a flat spot up a little bit higher. Another thing I did off camera was cleaned up this wiring. So I added these 2 pieces of wood, so that way I can strap those wires down just so that it is to code with how it's supposed to be. So I think I've got my plan of attack for how I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be pretty easy. All you really have to do is tie into one of those PEX lines, and I'm gonna work my way straight down the wall right there. And the one that I'm gonna be tying into is gonna be this one, so I've got a really easy run. And all I have to do is throw a T into it, work my way down. But that one goes to another spigot outside. So I think that one's going to be the best option for me to tie into without losing water pressure anywhere else. Because if I tie into a toilet or if I tie into a sink, if the hose is on outside, you're going to have a pretty significant pressure drop just because of the size of the water line. So I'm playing it safe, and I'm going to go with something that I know isn't going to cause an issue for the next homeowner. So when you're doing this, you don't really have to do anything super special. All you have to do is just grab this crimp ring, and then what I do is I grab my clamps, go like halfway, just so it makes it a little bit tight, and then when you slide it on to the piece of PEX itself, it does not slide, and then you just shove the two pieces together and tighten it, and then I always give it 2 extra grabs, and then it's done. So now what I need to do is run this through the wall, and then I'm going to tie it in on the back side. 2 screws on either side of this so that I know it's mounted correctly, and then I am all set. And just like that, we've got ourselves a water line that leads to a spigot. Crank the water for the house back on. Turn that off. So what I'm doing is looking for leaks. So far so good. Again, good so far. Now I'll crank this on. Good here. And as far as the spigot goes, got water. So now we've got a functioning spigot, and that is all done. And then whenever I finish the backyard, I can work on watering the lawn without having to worry about anything else happening as far as the grass seed that I'm gonna put in drying out and stuff like that. So I'm just finishing up now, and I threw in GFIs everywhere that they're needed. So I got that one up front, I got this one off to the side, and then I got one more over here, and then I'll be back in a few days to finish up everything else, which I say finish up, but there's a lot to do. So we'll lead into that next. All right, so I'm not entirely sure where I left off last time, but I did get a little bit of work done. I ended up working for 2 or 3 days off camera, so I could just kind of put my head down and just get everything done. But I'll give you a quick little update of where I am currently at. I power washed all of this. It was all like green and super dark. You probably go back in the video and find that and see what you remember. So this is looking a lot better. Even with the cracks and stuff, I'm gonna fill all those, but it's just a little bit more appealing now. The other thing that I worked on was I'm starting to fix this retaining wall. So what I'm gonna do is I've been digging out back behind it just so I can push it. I'm gonna put some fence posts in there and then screw through the face of the retaining wall, and then that way it's got some structural support and I don't have to worry about anything pushing it forward again. I started sanding and getting everything all painted up. If you remember, over in that corner there's a big patch, and now you can't even tell after I sanded it out that there was a patch there, but you can see the dust on the ground that I still haven't cleaned up. Same with over here. This is where I bashed the wall in, and you can't even tell. Other than that, my plan for today is just to finish up that retaining wall. Not sure how much time I'm gonna have here. And then if I've got some extra time, I'm gonna go back and touch up the rest of the paint so I can check that off my list, because I'm starting to get sick of working here. And if you're starting to get to the point of where you're going to sell your home, you're probably gonna hit this point as well. I've hit it with every house that I finished. It's just, you don't wanna work anymore, you just want it gone. But you gotta push through and do those extra little things to make it worth it for the buyer, for your home, because in the end, it's gonna make it a lot easier for you to sell your house. So out here, as you can see, I've got 3 post holes dug, and I've got 2 more to do at the end down there, and then I can start setting these fence posts and screwing it to itself. But when I set the fence posts, I'm going to be using concrete, so it's probably not going to be able to get filled back in until probably, I would bet, tomorrow at the earliest. This thing has been a lifesaver. This giant bar probably weighs like 20 pounds, but it's got this little pointed end, and then there's a big flat side at the top, and I call it a spud bar. This thing is called a 70-inch post hole digger and tamping bar. I got this from from Home Depot, and it was like 40 bucks. Worth every penny though, because what I'm digging in here is just pure clay. So here's kind of what I mean. You can see how it's like kind of shiny in there, and it's breaking off into these like tiny little bits. If you hit it with the fence post digger, it's basically just a solid rock. So I have to hit this in the middle and then kind of like pry it out. So like these little chunks of clay are how it's breaking out. It's just really ridiculous with how hard it is. I'm gonna keep picking at that. Hopefully I can get these dug within the next half hour, and we'll see where we're at from there. All right, so we got all the holes dug on the other side of that wall, and then I threw in a patch piece because this was all rotted down here and it doesn't quite fit. But there's rebar that goes through it, and now that spot's super strong with the rebar that goes through. I think there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points that it hits, so I'm not worried about that folding forward. But I am still going to tie it back with one of the posts, and I think we're pretty much going to hit every piece of wood. There's 5 different holes that are going in there. So next step, drop the posts in there and then put concrete in, and then start mixing it up. Gotta let it sit overnight then, and we can tie it back together. Alright, we are all done with that, and we are in pretty good shape, I think. Take it, and then I'll push it and screw it at the same time into that, just so that the posts get driven into, and this never sags again. And we should be in pretty good shape. I bet that'll last another 50 years or so, or until someone decides that it's pretty unsightly and digs it out again. So I'm pretty beat right now. I am going to go inside and start working on the paint. I did all the touch-ups like I showed you a little bit earlier, but I'm going to do a second coat in some spots because you can see where I patched on the drywall. So I'm going to knock that out really quick and then probably call it a day. I've got a few appointments later and I need to be ready for those, so I've got to get home, shower, shave, all that crap, and then start to go from there. Alright, so we're back now with another day, and the retaining wall is all dry for the posts that I put in. All the concrete has these things real sturdy, but I unfortunately wasn't able to work yesterday because we actually had a tornado touchdown here, and in the 30 years that I've lived in the Cleveland area, I've never had that happen. So this is a first for me, but a couple of our different cities got touchdowns with the tornadoes. Luckily mine wasn't, but I've been without power now for 2 days, so I had to stay home yesterday. I didn't really get any work done because I was handling that. Today, power's still out this morning, so my house is running off a generator, which kind of sucks, but the house that we're working at is all good. So I'm gonna work on this for a little while, probably do a shorter day and then head home. But my ultimate goal is to get all of the touch-up paint done inside. I've got the first coat on already, and then I want to backfill this retaining wall and get that all situated. So the first thing I'm going to do is push this all the way back, sink some screws into it to hold it nice and level, and then I can start filling in all of that dirt up by the septic tank. All of that rock's going to go in first, just so it can have good drainage, and then the dirt's going to go in on top of it. So next plan of action is to take that rock pile, put it in there, take that dirt pile, put it on top of the rocks, and then we are all finished with this project. I'll probably have to trim up some of these posts just so they sit flush with the top, but yeah, we're in the home stretch now. And just like that, we are all complete. So this thing turned out really good. Happy with it. It's gonna last a really long time. I know I've said that a million times already, but that was a lot of freaking work. I probably could have rebuilt it, but that would have taken even longer. And truth be told, it's not in bad condition. So another thing I did was I ended up going in and adding a bunch of screws up and down, connecting the different sides together, just so that way it has another point of structure to it, so it'll never shift again, even though it is attached to these posts in multiple locations. So again, just some added structural stability. Hopefully it works, but I guess we'll find out in the next 50 years. Alright, so I got stuck in work mode and I got a lot done off camera. So what I ended up doing was finishing the retaining walls on the back side of the house off camera, and another day, which is today, I started ripping down the side deck on the right side of the house. And the reason I did that is because everything was rotting. So what I'm going to end up doing here is just take it, it had the fence around it, so what I'm going to do is take the fence rail and put it in front of the sliding door. That way if someone wants to build a new deck, they can very easily, or if they want to rip up this whole concrete area and put in grass like I had originally planned, they have the ability to do that and then build the deck on top of that. So it's going to give them a little bit more flexibility, and honestly it's not worth me putting in the money to actually build a new deck, just because it's going to take so much more time. So on the back of the house, I actually ended up doing a retaining wall lower down on the space that is at the bottom of the hill where the concrete starts, and I just reused the old post that they had there. I think they had a dog chain to it or something, and maybe some old railroad ties attached to it or something. I'm not entirely sure why they were there, but that's my best guess. So on top of that, as you work your way up the hill, I ended up building a L-shaped retaining wall that blocks off the other corner of the house. Now I had to do this one because everything had failed and all the dirt was shifting real bad. So I just wanted to make this one really safe and just give the next homeowner a situation where it's probably going to last at least 10 years. I would put my money on closer to 20, but it's going to put them in a position where they don't have to replace this whole right side as soon as they move in. So just having this done is just going to make me feel like I am giving them a good product for a house that they're going to be moving into. That way they can still get a good school district for a cheaper price relative to what the rest of Strongsville is selling for. So yesterday I ended up just power washing and painting some of the deck that I could reach by hand and with the brush. So there's some fascia on the front that needed repainted. It had some chipping paint on it, and I had to leave the tall stuff for today. So what I am focusing on now is getting all of the parts that I couldn't reach yesterday scraped and painted, and I came up with a pretty cool device for actually getting this scraped. And what I did was I took a 18-foot pole that is meant for window cleaning. I grabbed one of the scrapers for it, scraped all the paint from 20 feet down, and then I taped a paintbrush to it actually, and I was able to dip the paintbrush in the bucket of paint and then not even have to get on a ladder. It was super easy, and I'll kind of show you what I mean here now. So along the fascia up there, it's just really high up and I can't really reach it at all. So I scraped that with this pole, and I'm gonna kind of put some overlay of me actually doing it just so you can kind of see. But I also had to get up into that corner as well. I don't know how well you can see it, but that's all scraped and ready to be painted again. And pretty much just down this whole line, you can kind of see that there's a few spots that are chipping away. So scrape that, and then what I'm gonna do is put the paintbrush on that pole and then just paint it by hand from down low. So I've got everything painted now, and I've done that strategy before where you just tape the paintbrush to a really long stick and then push it up to the top and get everything painted. Now, it's not the cleanest method to do it, but if you're in a pinch and you need to get it done fast, and there's the ability to be a little bit messy with it without causing any issues, that is a really good way to do it without having to rent a super long ladder and get all the way up there to actually accomplish that task. I also ended up painting the deck, so all of the chipping paint is off of there now. It doesn't match perfectly, but it's pretty dang close. I would say close enough to make it good for the buyer, because if they come in here, they're probably going to want to repaint anyways. So that part is done now. Basically just have to put in the drain on the back of the house, which I'm going to do tomorrow, We have 5 yards of dirt delivered. Just a bunch of little tasks from there, caulking the exterior, making sure there's no holes in the house and that everything is covered up. And from there, we're pretty much done. So it'll be time for listing once we do all that. All right, so I actually finished up working on the house off camera, and I actually had to bring in some of my big guns. I had to bring a buddy of mine over to help me move a lot of dirt and a lot of stone. So I ended up bringing in 5 yards of dirt and 5 yards of stone. It was a little too much stone. I probably realistically should have done 2 yards. But what we did with all of that dirt and stone is we added a drain tile onto the back of the house, and we took the dirt first and pitched it so that the water would wash away from the home and not towards the foundation. And then we laid some of that silt fabric so that way no dirt would wash up. We put some rock on top of that, and then we threw the drain tile down on top of the rock and then added more rock over the drain tile. And then once the drain tile was covered in rock, we added another layer of the silt over top of it, so that way none of the dirt that we put above it would ever wash down and in to clog the pipe, so that way it's free flowing for the rest of time. And this was just so much work that I didn't feel like bringing out the camera to film it all, which I probably should have in retrospect, but we are where we are now. So at this point, now that all of the grading is fixed and the backyard is somewhat usable, I am pretty much ready for sale. There was one thing that popped up, and my brother actually hired me to sell his house in Olmsted Township, and we were expecting that to sit on the market for about 30 days or so. And the reason we were expecting that was just because there were 2 other houses on his street that had been sitting for about that timeline and still hadn't sold yet. But when I put it up for sale, I was actually able to drum up enough interest and bring multiple offers, and it went under contract within 4 days and was closing within 30. And he was actually going to be moving into a house that we were working on the renovation for, but we were not able to get it to the point where he was able to move in by that time period. So I am going to let him move into this Strongsville house temporarily while we finish up his, so that way they're not living in an unfinished project like I did when I was renovating this house. If you go back and watch those videos, I kind of talk about how crappy it was, just because of how it was always dusty. It was always a work area. There was nowhere to relax. I had my office, my living room, and my kitchen in one single bedroom in that house, and then another bedroom was where I slept. So I'm just trying to help him avoid having to do the same thing at his current house that he is working on. So once he's moved out of there, all I'm really gonna have to do is bring in a professional cleaner. That's probably gonna cost me about $250, and they're going to run through the whole house, make sure it's perfectly clean, and then I will do all my listing stuff for the home itself. I'll shoot the video, I'll make the marketing, I'll list it up for sale, and I'm assuming that all of this prep that I have done is going to bring me multiple offers just because of the price that I'm going to put it at. This home was perfect for someone buying their first one and just wanting to break into the Strongsville market, because it's going to appreciate over time, and the fact that it's going to be listed right around $300,000 is really low for what Strongsville is. So whoever buys this is going to be set. Now I hope this gives you a pretty good idea as far as what it takes to get your home ready for sale. Yours might not be as labor intensive as mine was, but it's just making sure that everything is in working order, it's clean, and it's all safe. Now I'm still trying to figure out the rest of what I want to do with this channel. I kind of stopped posting for a little while, and I am starting to get back into more DIY projects now that I have a little bit more time. So I think what I'm going to be doing is converting this into just how to keep up with your home, and also just miscellaneous DIY tasks, because I think it's super important nowadays to be working on your own stuff, not only to save a little bit of money. I personally think it's really important to build these kinds of characteristics and just different talents, so that way you're not just sitting on the couch rotting away and you have something to do when you get home from work. Some people may have other hobbies, whether it's a sport or if it's some sort of hiking or going out to different places within your city that you live in. But me personally, I'm a big fan of just working on stuff and just tinkering. That's a pretty big conclusion I've come to over the last year or so. I'm going to be sticking to the things that make me happy and feel fulfilled instead of living on other people's accord. So if you like this video and you want to see more like it, they're probably not going to be as in-depth as this one, but they're going to be coming up more often on the YouTube channel, hopefully. I do have another channel that I'm running, and that one is getting 1 video a week, but that is just based off of real estate in the Cleveland area. So if you're interested in that, feel free to go like and subscribe to that. But if you want to stick around here, that would be awesome as well. But with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one.